Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
And I'm Nick Gambarian.
And I am Mike Forster. Nick, it's been a while since you've been back.
Yeah. Life got crazy. And that's saying a lot because I wasn't even on tour. I was doing Mosh Isley's. I was in the studio. Did have one show. Sorry.
I've also heard life finds a way.
Yeah. I'm a
Different
dinosaur now.
Yeah.
But
our favorite dinosaur got murdered.
Yo, God, rest in peace.
Wow. So let's well, first of all, by the time this comes out, a late happy May the 4th to you both.
And to you, and also to you.
And today, at the time of recording, there's always a bigger fifth.
That's true.
But tomorrow,
tomorrow's Revenge of the Sixth. We're ending this debate because we now have. There's always a bigger fifth.
I've been saying this for years. Revenge of the Sixth. It's the only thing that makes sense. Put some respect on Cinco de Mayo, because there is always a bigger fifth, and it's Cinco.
Nice.
Should I read this? Because I think it's brilliant. Should I read what I read you guys before? Because I feel like
absolutely.
I haven't really seen a lot of people post it, so I feel like maybe it needs some traction. So, all right, I'm going to read this. I found this on Memesar. It came to me yesterday on May the 4th. So, there's always a bigger fifth. Brilliant. Revenge of the Sixth puts it in its right place. Excellent. I am the seventh. Excellent. I find your lack of eighth disturbing. Love that. A 9 addition to my collection. Got a little Grievous in there. And it's treason 10. That's 6 whole days. Well, 7 technically of Star Wars. It's a whole week.
Brilliant.
Starting with May the 4th. I love all that.
I support a full week of Star Wars. The problem that has happened is that sometimes the first weekend for people in the 501st, when it falls on a weekend, everybody who runs a business, runs an event, thinks that they're being very crafty by going, May the 4th, we should do a Star Wars themed event. And our Michigan garrison alone had about 63 events this weekend, split between 120 troopers. So you do the math. But I know that for certain places, that's not a problem. But I know it definitely puts a strain on, just trying to figure out how to make everybody happy. That's really what we do. So it was a great weekend. It was a lot of fun. Went to our library to help the youths, get them excited about Mando and Grogu, which is pretty exciting.
Check out the Thrawn trilogy at the library, all the little kids.
Wonderful. What has been your thoughts? We haven't talked too extensively with you about Mando Grogu over the last couple of weeks. It's been Adam and I have been weaving it in and out of our conversations because I feel like for a podcast that wasn't critical, concerned. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I don't think that my tone has changed towards it, even with the uptick in marketing, because I don't really think the marketing is. I don't know who it's aimed at. Obviously, not us. But yeah, I'm just cautiously optimistic. I really don't know. I know a couple of people who saw like the first 20 minutes already in one of those special viewings, and they all say the same thing. It's just an action sequence. So. What is the runtime of the movie? Is already 10% of it just action right off the top?
If I recall, it's about 2:15.
Okay.
So they've released 30 minutes of it in theaters already. So
insane.
That is pretty insane, in my opinion.
I mean, this is a huge existential question because, like I said, it's like I don't know who they're marketing this towards. So, are there people who are just enjoying all of this or expect it? Is there a younger generation that's like, yes, this is how you do things. Show me half the movie before it comes out, and maybe I'll see it. We're just getting aged out from the way the world works. I'd like to think that people are just, business and marketing is just nuts and no one knows what to do. So they're just trying a new thing. Maybe we're just aging out. I hate to say it. I really don't know. None of it seems sustainable. So we will see. Nothing on Earth seems sustainable. Earth doesn't seem sustainable. Welcome back to the pot, Nick.
Hey, we're all stoked, but we've had, we keep having little conversations a lot of times in the bonus segment for patrons about how we're concerned. We want the movie to do well, and when we don't see marketing everywhere, Burger King, cereals, soaps, the damn barber, we're like, what the hell? Are they even telling people about this movie? We want Star Wars to succeed. What the hell? So that's been the consistent vibe. And it did pick up. We did acknowledge it. I don't know. And there's also projected numbers that are not too bad. Pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like it's getting better, which people can point like, hey, we started the marketing campaign and it's gotten a little better. So we will see.
We will see. The darker side of things, this is your first episode since Maul dropped.
Yeah.
Nice to have you here for the finale. You want to bring us up to speed with your experience of watching, like how you navigated spoilers? Because I know you weren't like watching it week to week consistently. How do you feel about it?
I really didn't start it until week 3. So that's 6 episodes in where that I played catch up. And you know what? Even with you guys, I didn't really see anything online on Instagram or anything like that. I'm kind of a little off Instagram these days. Like a lot of my life has been like because of how wild politics and certain files got a couple of months ago, about 3 months ago. I like fully have lost it and been like, all right, I am done with Instagram. I'm done with, like I'm going to know what I need to know about the news, but I'm not reading a lot of stuff. I'm going to occupy my brain and my algorithm with other things because I'm going nuts. So Instagram isn't necessarily feeding me a lot of those things right now. I'm not searching for them on YouTube. I'm not watching spoilers or any reviews or anything like that. And your chat, I think, was very good. Like our chat. What you guys were talking about in the chat didn't spoil a lot because a lot of it was just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like in a good way. It was just like mind blowing. I'm like, oh man, this sounds really good because they were losing their minds. And Ryan was just like, we're so back, So when I finally got into it, I felt like it was slow and I could handle that because it was character building. Like there's a lot of stuff we know about Maul. But I think we had to bring, the Devin and Lawson and Master Daki. Like we had to bring these characters kind of into the fold more to make you care about them because there was going to be stakes at the end. And when Desi and I watched episode 9 and 10 last night, we were like, I think for the first time in the series, like hands in the air, like this is awesome,
Yeah.
And that felt really good. So it's definitely it's renewed for season 2 already, even before it came out, right? So I definitely have thoughts, but I'm pumped after the finale.
Well, they definitely delivered on the stakes level in the finale, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like our hopes and predictions for what might happen in season 2, hopefully 3 and beyond, let's save that for a full season wrap up.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get all 4 of us next week. We'll see what the schedule allows, but man, there's so much potential. We had some hits on our bingo card, some things where, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, we're not going to see Vader till the finale. And, there it is, it happened. So we just kind of dipped our toes into that. We have some open-ended questions. The reel that we have, the poll that we have going about who it was in the Hollow, I don't think that's answered at all.
Yeah.
Some people seem to think it is. I don't. There are a lot of things. So we'll get into that next week. But for now, let's talk about these episodes. And Mike, I think it's time for some stolen plans, my dude.
What have you done with those plans?
Chapter 9, Strange Allies. Debuted Monday, May the 4th on Disney+. The description is trust is tested as newly forged allies navigate the only way out. Ooh, how ominous. And wasn't it true? Directed by Stuart Lee, written by Christopher Yost, and the score by the Kiners. The runtime was 26 minutes on this one. I watched these in a little bit of a state of delirium at about 4 a.m. when I couldn't fall back asleep. So they kind of felt like 2 episodes for me because I think if I remember, the cut at chapter 9 goes right into chapter 10. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And there's something interesting about that we should talk about in a second.
For sure. So I remember that right. Okay. Chapter 10, The Dark Lord. Now, it wasn't called that.
No title.
There was no title on that. It was just chapter 10. Given reasons, of course, Disney is like, let's not spoil it. Also on Instagram, which their Instagram post is automated, right? They showed they made a point to not show Vader, even though there is a character poster for Vader,
Mhm.
which was the reason that I got spoiled when they
Oh, no way.
accidentally leaked. Yeah. So I didn't want to say anything, and I saw that at the end because I go, oh, that's cool. Dryden Voss is in it. And then the next one was Vader just standing there, and I was like, well, okay. So they didn't do that, I think. So shout out to Star Wars for running Mark the Intern, holding back all that he knew about Darth Vader, even though I am fully rocking Darth Vader instead of Maul in this new Breakfast Balls collection, which
I got them both on somehow.
dude,
It's
I
a
love
perfect
them.
order.
I love them. This was such a smart idea. Good, Justin, John, you guys are you guys get it. Chapter 10, The Dark Lord, debuted Monday, May the 4th. Also, the Disney Plus description, one last test, one last chance to escape and survive. Also ominous. Also, for people listening, my face just went, I winced. Directed by Nate Villeneuve, written by Matt Minchovitz and Brad Rao. You know, they bring the big guns for the finale. The score by the Kiners and the runtime was also 26 minutes. The newly introduced cast, Dryden Voss, played by Scott White, best known for his role as Chris Anderson on the late 90s NBC sitcom City Guy. But he's done many voice acting roles in TV, film, and video games, including being the current voice of, you guys might be a little old for this, but Crash Bandicoot, an iconic PlayStation character. How could you guys not know that?
There's a current Crash Bandicoot thing?
Yeah, PlayStation loves to milk it. It's great.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
Today you learned, and you couldn't think of a more opposite. Like, I think when I knew that Dryden Voss was coming back, my immediate thought was, "Wow, did they get Paul Bettany to do this?"
Yeah.
This was probably one of the voices that I think Paul's voice, despite not being, you know, like he has a unique look, and I guess like hearing Dryden Voss, curious your thoughts as audio people. His voice, Paul Bettany's voice, is a lot more interesting than I give it credit for.
Absolutely. He has a unique accent. And this performance was great, but I don't think he really went for the accent. There were a couple moments where I could hear it, but even kind of his cadence was different, which is all fine, but strange given the fact that they made the animated character visually look exactly like Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
Right.
It was noticeable, definitely to us, because we love Solo. So I feel like anyone who has like reference for that character played by Paul Bettany, I was like, it's definitely noticeable that he's not, I don't want to say he's not trying, but kind of wasn't an effort to like mimic the voice and the cadence and the accent.
And of course, Vision will return in Avengers Endgame. That's the reason why he was busy. So let's get into this synopsis, because I think for chapter 9 specifically, this is where I think I was holding my breath a little bit to try to understand how far we would go into this, knowing that we've got the penultimate episode and then the finale. This, I think overall, Nick, you're the most recent to watch this in kind of a condensed format rather than the weekly viewing. Did you kind of feel like, how was your view of the pacing of this? Because I was surprised actually at equally how far we got along and also how little we actually made progress in terms of they, you know, established one place. They really only went to like 4 or 5 locations. Yeah. So I'm curious your thoughts on this, because
well, I think it kind of, you're talking about as a whole, the season as a whole, or just okay. As a whole, yeah, I thought it was slow, you know, like, and I really did. It made me think of the future of the show, because I'm like, this seems like almost when like they announced it, you're like, what could the story possibly be? And now it seems like the first step on the ladder is Maul and Devin. And I think there's a whole Maul universe, you know, like I think there's a whole thing going on. I think we're getting 5 seasons of this, you know, like, so yeah, I think it was slow, but I mean, they must know something, or maybe this is just the first leadership, you know, new leadership choice to be like, Maul's getting season 2 no matter what. Like, we're letting this thing slow burn, and we're getting at least 2 seasons. So, I think I said at the beginning, I thought it was slow, and then I think the pace of 9 and 10 was like what I expect to like love about Star Wars. Was I wasn't bored by the lightsaber battles. They were sick. There was really cool stuff that I've never, none of us have seen before. There was like almost like this one moment where they all like kind of clashed together and froze for a second. I'm like,
yeah, totally.
It's like when you watch Star Wars and you see stuff where that makes you go, whoa, it's like it's hard to get that all the time, but that's the stuff that like really moves us. So,
and that's already been gift and thrown all over the internet.
Dude, you're one of the first people I've heard say anything about it being slow.
Yeah.
So I guess, because to me, like all the action sequences,
Say more.
I can see how plot wise it was slower. You
Yeah,
know?
that's more what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the like the intensity in the action off the bat, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think we had talked a little bit of
tracks, definitely plot wise. I think I'm meaning they're slow.
That makes sense, because I think, Adam, you and I had talked about how the first couple episodes started as crime noir, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a slow burn. A murder has happened in the streets. The detective's working overtime, but he can't figure it out, right? Can't put my finger on it until some little, he notices someone in the window and the reflection of, oh my God, I'm putting it, and it's almost kind of like that's the fun part of watching this slow burn. But it almost like in the process of him finding out where the murder was, now all of a sudden we're in a full-blown Tommy gun fight in the middle of Chicago in 1920, whatever. I think from this point on, like once the Lats were brought in and the chases were very Clone Wars. Nick, did you feel like you were watching an episode of Clone Wars? Did you feel like, what was your, when you compare to all of the Star Wars animated you've seen, we've also seen some really kind of slow burn, slow stories and tales. And then we've also seen, just a straight up chaotic action scene in Bad Batch. So like,
I didn't feel like I was watching Clone Wars, but I do feel like that's a more nuanced take. Like, I think we know too much about the animation and where it was and where it is now. Like this doesn't, it obviously fits in the Bad Batch and Tales, and even season 7 of Clone Wars, it fits in that style, but it's already so like past that. There's certain inanimate objects and like buildings and scenes in Maul that I'm like, is this mixed media? Like that looks so real that I don't even think that's animation, So, especially Marok, like there were times because it's not like a face character that I'm like, that looks real. And then you see like Riley next to them or something. And I'm like, oh, that's animation. Okay. So no, I didn't feel like I was watching Clone Wars, but I feel like we know too much, where I feel like we know where the animation was and where it is now. And it's like so good, where it just constantly in my head of things we say for years on this podcast, like just give us like 4 of these series a year, give us the Adventures of Luke Skywalker, give us more, whatever, Mandalorian, Han Solo, Leia, like whatever it is, this animation style is only getting better and can handle kind of filling in a lot of the lore, which I think would be, especially with sequel stuff, like pretty badass if they do that.
I have some great slides to look at, probably between the episodes, the synopses here, comparing all the different versions of Vader in animation and going through frame by frame. Man, I discovered some amazing techniques that they're using in animation on the series, which we'll talk about in the wrap up, leaning like pretty heavily into anime, I feel like. So there's interesting stuff, and we'll get to that.
Before we get into the specific chapters, were either of you surprised that we didn't get any official announcement about any project upcoming for May the 4th?
I honestly, I wasn't that surprised, because I figured with Mando coming out and it being the first theatrical release in so many years, it wouldn't make sense to me with Maul on and that to drop something new right in the middle of it.
I think logically, I'm right with you. It makes sense that they were like, don't take your eyes off the prize, right? I will be very interested to see how far after, if this is 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, this would be sometime into June that they would announce when we'd expect the premiere date. Sam Witwer said himself, it's not coming too far after, because I believe that the fact that they announced season 2 before season 1 premiered means that they were likely working on this show in tandem, which isn't uncommon for people to do now, because if assets are pulled up, it's way cheaper to keep a project going. You're kind of making decisions on the fly that you don't have to go back to the writer's room and fix all this stuff. They're kind of doing it all at once. This is how they did Endgame, or how they did one of the big Marvel projects. So I just thought it was interesting that we didn't get anything about this, because with Mando also coming out, there was a part of me that goes, are we going to see that season 2 by the end of the year? I think Ahsoka is coming out this year, and so that's going to be interesting. We also have the 9th Jedi, or we have a
Visions Presents.
A Visions project, right? So the rest of the year is actually pretty stacked. Is this the filler in between Star Wars returning to the theaters in February? Is this March of next year that gets us into April, which then Celebration is happening, and then Starfighter happens over the summer?
I have some thoughts about what potentially we could see with The Mandalorian. We're going to do a lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu the week before. So the week after next, I guess. So maybe we'll talk about that then. Let's do the synopsis.
Chapter 9. Dryden Voss offers Maul safe passage off Janix in exchange for killing Boss Rentero, allowing Voss to become Crimson Dawn's new leader. His quote is quite simple. Once I complete my part of the bargain, you will kill Boss Rentero and install me as the leader of Crimson Dawn. Maul sends a message to Devin through the Force, which already, it's bad. And she leads the rest of their group to a meeting point where Maul proposes as an alliance to escape Janix with the help of Dryden Voss. Lawson suggests an underground route to the rendezvous point outside of the city, fighting off the Empire along the way, and arriving at a river of acidic, toxic waste. And the group slowly crosses with the help of Spybot as stormtroopers and Inquisitors catch up with them. This is a funny, this was a perfect Two Boots moment.
Yes.
He's like, what? We need to report this immediately. And then he's like, oh, right, I'm a fugitive. It was a very K2SO, we'll figure it out. Spybot, unfortunately, is destroyed by Marok.
Rest in peace.
Scott Centeno shares today that he was the one who helped create Spybot.
Amazing.
Scott, why were you...
a few other amazing assets in the show.
Good. Come on, man. Spill the beans.
You could... Maul was sad about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Maul. That's such a weird...
Right. It was right. And honestly, a terrifying little friend.
Yeah.
After being mortally wounded by blaster fire, Icarus sacrifices himself while taking out 2 stormtroopers by throwing them and himself in the acid river.
What a gnarly scene, dude.
It was crazy.
Even the first stormtrooper going in, I was like, ooh, that's over a line that we haven't crossed before. And then when he jumped in with them,
right.
Whoa. Man.
Especially when they showed how acidic it was.
Yeah.
And it eats the, that staff or whatever. I was like, yeah.
Maul video game level. We got to cross the acid.
Yeah, it's like a Mario Brothers lava level or something. Yeah.
You've got to figure out the puzzle first.
What was funny is I was thinking that during the acid part, and then the next thing just had this walkway with missing pieces. I'm like, this is a video game. They're fighting on a video game level.
And now kids, for Star Wars kids, the new game is the floor is acid instead of the floor is lava.
Maul holds the Inquisitors off long enough for the others to cross and then joins them. But outside the city, they are confronted by none other than Darth Vader, who kills Rookcast in front of them all in a shadowy destruction that Vanessa Marshall describes is way worse than what we saw on screen. Thankfully, someone asked Vanessa and said, what was the, when did they tell you that Rook was going to die? And she said, oh yeah, I knew. I had to know what was going on. And they said, how did you feel about that? She said, I told the team, the only way I want Rookcast to die is if Darth Vader pulls her lungs out of her body. And I was like, they didn't animate that, but I can picture it, and it tracks.
We didn't see her actually die, so I'm hoping she didn't actually die. She was just critically wounded, because I'm still really on this theory that
Rookcast is the armor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love it. It's just it sounds really nice. It makes a lot of sense.
It does sound nice. But the way that Vader, like complete horror movie, this, she runs out of the mist and she's like, there's something back there. So again, we're really on this idea that Vader is something more machine than man, whatever you'd want to call it. But he is a true boogeyman in this sense. Something in the chat that I thought was interesting. I think it was 43% Burn Anakin was like, does anyone feel like people get worse when they fight Vader?
Worse people?
Like he was saying, like, it almost like you look at how beautiful the lightsaber fights are, even Maul and the two Inquisitors and all this. And Vader fights like a brute. He's like straight top down, just absolute tomahawk. And it almost seems like the other should be faster than him. And so, of course, that naturally starts this idea of like, what does Vader, what does he come across as? Why does this seem like a thing? And I thought this was interesting. I'd like to know your thoughts on that question.
I mean, is the idea that like merely his presence instills so much fear and is filled with so much darkness that it changes the emotional and mental tone of everything around him and is disarming in that way, like disabling?
Intimidation.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny that both of you said this because I said my headcanon for Darth Vader, the same reason that like we've seen him now a couple times in video games and these other things. We've, the first time Vader's introduced to Kanan and Ezra, they're like, what is that thing?
Yes.
Right. There's a part of me that feels like my headcanon is that his entire presence is almost like a disorienting cloud. Because
like a distortion field.
100%, because like Maul is like, he fights like you. He knows how you're fighting. So he has the traits of a Jedi, but this dude is like seemingly unfazed by, Daki like slices him on the arm and he looks down and he's like,
it's very,
okay.
This episode, like I'm just sitting there next to Desi and I'm like, this is horror Vader, like even his entrance, it's just straight up horror. And when, like you just said, like there was no stopping him. It was almost like Jason-esque, it's like there's nothing you can do to him that would stop. I think that they made him probably proportionally inaccurate. Like he seemed so much bigger than everyone. I know that he's a bigger figure, but he's so much bigger than everyone else that he was fighting. It was the first time in a very long time I saw Vader and didn't think of Anakin. I thought, here's a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's a huge so that part of me goes, Daki gets a glance in and he's unfazed. He doesn't say anything. There is no way of knocking him off. The quote that I had said in the Discord was, Qui-Gon's like, your focus determines your reality. And then Yoda is also saying, fear essentially is like you can't give into it or else like you're gonna lose it. So the idea of going, we have this like unfazable brute that is clouding your mind, making you scared, and your reality just becomes, oh no, I need to survive. Plus the idea that like his rage and his sadness and his frustration is just like radiating off him, which is incredibly disorienting for Jedi who have been trained. Daki has basically been telling Devin the whole time to not give into any of these feelings. And all of a sudden this like giant character comes in with all of these emotions. It's just like, what does this feel like? And of course, then the actual boogeyman part of Vader, where he punches through a wall and grabs Maul.
Yes.
You're like, yo,
horror movie.
100%.
And the other essential, like quintessential horror movie element of this is that he doesn't say a word the entire time. Yep. It's just the breathing. It is like Jason, or anyone else, and that the stature, the shoulders, like you're talking about, it reminds me of, granted, a very corny, hilarious horror movie, but Jason X or 10, however they call it, how he's so much bigger. He looks like the Shredder almost,
Yeah.
It's the one where
metal mask, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one where he smashes
Cutter?
the sleeping bag against the tree, right?
I
He
can't
takes
remember.
somebody by the
but-
sleeping bag and
yeah,
just
yeah,
smashes
just
them
like
against.
yeah, it's like soap in a sock, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was really awesome how they handled that, and the fact that he didn't speak. You know, we get moments later as Vader is, you know, further along in his journey where he's a little bit more sassy. Some of the comic books I think are cringy, but like, you know, for the most part, you know, Vader, the not being able to talk is very unreasonable, because you feel like you can, as long as I can talk to him, as long as I can, you know, have a conversation with him, or you know, Maul, that's literally Maul's thing. He says that to the two Inquisitors. He's like, Palpatine's using you. So Maul's trying to get in their head to throw them off the game, and Maul is sitting here being like, you're not an Inquisitor, like you're not one of them, right? He's trying to.
You think Maul's trying to throw everybody else off? I think he's trying to like engage them.
Mm.
I think Maul is right. I think that the only way to defeat Vader in this moment is to lean dark side, because it is the faster, more how does Yoda describe it? Faster, easier, or whatever. But you know, not stronger in the long run. But at the level that Daki and Devin are operating, like that's their only way to be strong enough to even survive. And I feel like that's why Devin survives and Daki doesn't, because she was willing to tap into the dark side and he wasn't. If they were Obi-Wan level, that'd be one thing, but they're not. So
I think when Maul clashes with the Inquisitors and he says you're just you're a pawn for Darth Sidious, you know what I mean? Like I think that's him trying to be like,
throw them off.
But I think with Vader, he was just straight up like something's terribly wrong here.
Yeah,
100%. Like, but the fact that Vader doesn't re-engage with him throws everybody off their game even more. You're not even thinking, I'm going to counter this guy. You're just like, I need to escape.
Yeah.
You know, this is the part that the small breadcrumbs that lead up to the time where we see Vader on Malachor, that Darth Maul is like, I'm out, dude. See ya.
Yes. Well, before we get into chapter 10, and there's some responses I would give right now, but that's chapter 10 stuff. Should we look at I was a few slides of all the different animated versions of Vader, since we get the reveal at the end of 9 here and we get into it in 10. So let's take a look at these. Here he is in Rebels. Stylistically, this is leaning Macquarie concept.
Yep.
So this is heavily stylized.
Yep.
So not necessarily like a comparison that we need to like to think of in that sense if we're trying to analyze the style choice or the accuracy per se. But I mean, everything's there in the design of the chest plate, the layers of the soft parts, the belt, everything. It's all there. There's a little bigger shot of that one. And then Clone Wars, we don't see him as much. We just see from a distance. Before this, actually, so going back to thinking about the stature of him, yes, he's much bigger than Ezra, but he doesn't have that like girth to his and breadth of his shoulders that even like the size of his chest in Maul is just so much bigger than this. Same thing with the Clone Wars finale. He's tall, right? He seems like appropriately sized height-wise, but he doesn't have that like dominating presence.
Yep.
And granted, it's only a couple shots of him, but there's another one that we can reference that's from a distance, where you get a profile. Here he is in Tales of the Empire. This is closer to me. I feel like maybe they could have used this sculpt as the starting point for Maul, the artists. I mean, that helmet, everything, it's much closer to the live action version. This looks maybe more Rogue One-esque in terms of like its symmetry and the shape of the dome. Mike, what do you think, just from a maker perspective?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that like the red lenses are present here, right? In this, for people that really nerd out over this stuff, they were actually amber. They're not red.
Mm-hmm.
They were amber because I interviewed the guy who made the sculpt of Darth Vader, and he used ski lenses. And there is no benefit to having a red lens in your ski goggle. Okay,
yeah.
As someone who also happens to have snowboarded for almost 30 years of my life. And so they were amber lenses that just the cockpit of the X1 shines red in the lens. And then after color correction, it turns red. Now, of course, naturally, everybody thinks, okay, cool. But by the time we get to Empire, by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, they're smoke gray. And of course, like a lot of people have seen with the behind the scenes of something like Daredevil, there's a lot of different versions of this helmet. Some of them are clear at certain parts so that you can see his hands when he's sword fighting. There's different versions of it. But most importantly, stylistically, Rogue One brought back the red lens, which was only seen in A New Hope. So I think when you don't have to deal with a live action, I would probably say constraints, the red lens is probably the biggest indicator that like this is the version that Lucasfilm wants, right? It looks cool. But I think the McQuarrie concept was just more of a stylistic choice of how Rebels was being different. The skinny lightsabers, the lanky bodies that almost kind of had, probably a combination of technical ability or technical capabilities is definitely the better way to say that. But I think in terms of this is the Vader that it feels like we should be using moving forward, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I know the differences between Rogue One and A New Hope sculpts are very, very slight and subtle. And you really, I looked at a comparison the other day, a maker had posted, and I guessed backwards, because there's like a more elongated helmet part, the kind of forehead and top of the head.
Right.
There's something, I think there's a little more symmetry maybe in the cheekbones or something like that. But this looks very Rogue One to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shape-wise.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, like this is one of those things where Star Wars nerds are like, you have to throw in the asymmetry to honor Brian Muir's work. But for the most part, I mean, this, Rogue One is an idealized version of many things, as well as in this particular model too has also been criticized because Revenge of the Sith was too perfect. And that was kind of the argument that, they made it this way. But as with all things, something that comes fresh off the factory line is going to be the most perfect engineered form. And then once a person really starts to work it in and gets used to it, say like Anakin Skywalker, who's unafraid to walk into every battle head first, things are going to change.
Absolutely.
Also looks like a toy. Like most actual like Black Series toy version.
So I went back and I watched just a little bit of Tales of the Empire to grab some of these images, and Tales of the Empire looks damn good. I think they put a little more into that one than they did Tales of the Underworld and even Tales of the Jedi. It looks really, really good. And I think it represents a nice kind of stepping stone from Clone Wars and Bad Batch to Maul, even though Maul, has an entire additional layer of stylized, kind of all the hand-painted stuff, all the anime stuff. But this is a nice interim.
Can I just say, too, one more little fun armor body detail? Cool about this is that you can tell where Vader is canonically also because the green light on his chest is before A New Hope.
Oh, okay.
In Empire, it changes to blue. So you see that little box right there? See that little light? It's green. It's green through A New Hope, and then Empire on, it becomes blue.
Nice. All right, here is almost the first appearance in Maul. This is actually from the first shot of Chapter 10. Notice that, let's see, do I have them both here? Yes. Actually, on the bottom here is the end of Chapter 9 when the lightsaber ignites. The top is Chapter 10. So they just wanted to make a statement and went full red when the lightsaber came on. But when he ignites
an entrance. He loves an entrance.
But Chapter 10, they kind of, they skip back a few seconds, ignited the lightsaber again, and it only lit up the bottom here in a more natural way. But I mean, for the horror effect, going full red, smoke and everything, it's all effective. Looking at these two back to back, it is, I know the angle is slightly different, but it is a little squattier on top, the shape of the helmet. But what's interesting about this, and we'll get to this in a few of these new images here. Okay, so here's Vader, nice and like dad bod. Like,
dude's got mass.
Big-chested. Yeah. And like you said, Nick, I think compared to everyone else, he's just a beast. Maul looks like a little, like a choir boy compared to him. This is the stuff that, man, when you go frame by frame in this show, it's wild how rough you can see things actually are. But they also have a level of more like physics-based rendering that really shows the reflections accurately. The lighting is all so super accurate, and there's so much detail in everything, even though it has that roughness. Like you look at the chest plate, it's messy as hell. Like none of those squares are right angles. They're just like blobs almost. But the reflections, like the specular highlights, the really bright stuff that starts to pop out, makes it look so real. Like look at this. You could squint, and that's live action when you squint.
Yeah, 100%.
But then you look at it and you see all the rough lines, and it no longer feels like live action. I mean, that too, that looks like Obi-Wan almost.
Right. Dude,
God, what a moment.
Seriously.
Lifting up Daki by his throat. And then there's the other angle. Again, the specular highlights on the glove, the really bright parts that pop out, and on the mask, on like the tip of the, what do you call those at the tip of the breather?
The tusks.
And then on the neck, the rim light on the back right side. It's like, it's almost it's like you took something photoreal and you put a weird filter on it. Go back one.
Okay. So like on this, like what's interesting from a nerdy perspective too, the helmet is glossy enough, but it still has some matting to it. It's not like you won't see all of the lightsabers. You see them in his lenses, but you don't see them really in his head. And that is, you know what I mean? Like it's not catching color the same way. And that's A New Hope has a matte helmet, which was designed to reduce some of the glare from the Tantive 4 because they needed something that was like not picking up highlights from all the lights that they were using. And so that's part of the reason why they knocked that down for filming. Yeah.
Which they explained really well in Rogue One. He just came from a nasty ass battle, all kinds of smoke, everything all over him. So that works. These two reaches here, the glove. I mean, it's just, that looks like leather. It's wild.
So good.
Here again, one-handed fighting, blocking Devin. And then this, man, I have a whole bunch of screen grabs of him clashing sabers with Maul that are like, I mean, they're Revenge of the Sith, like desktop wallpaper level, just beautiful shots. And Maul obviously is more of a cartoon here, but Vader still has this photorealism to him that, like, how did you guys take in this experience of seeing him, especially like going from like, oh, he's here to a 20-minute fight, essentially, where I can almost have like a kind of a surreal kind of feeling the entire time. How did you guys feel?
It brought back some feelings that I feel like I haven't had in a long time. Like I feel like it really was one of those things, like, at the end of Mandalorian season 2, where like we knew, I'm like, the only person that should be here is Luke, but how are they going to do that? And then Luke shows up and you're like, what am I watching? This is insane. You know, and that's like how I felt to a different level yesterday, where I'm like, Vader's around. There's Inquisitors. We know because of Obi-Wan and stuff, like he's, on screen, we've seen him interact with Inquisitors. So it only makes sense that he's around. So it was great. It would really pulled me in, I enjoyed every episode. It felt like it was setting a lot of stuff up. This felt like the payoff. Plus, like I said earlier, I think there's so much more with bringing in Dryden Voss, and we know where Maul is with all of that in Solo and stuff like that. So it made me think that there's a bigger Maulverse coming, which is really exciting.
And deserved for the character.
The part of like how we know the cycle for this stuff is, right, does make you initially worried that once the aura of Vader gets put out there more, someone's going to screw it up, and that is a very real concern for me because, as common criticisms of like a lot of people didn't watch animated, the moment where Ahsoka slashes Vader's helmet and reveals that it's Anakin underneath is a wildly top 10 Star Wars moment for me in that exact fight, the Twilight of the Apprentice. So seeing that kind of get redone a little bit in the Obi-Wan show was a big moment for people, and I loved it. But like the fact that we had seen it before definitely dropped the impact down a little bit because we saw its familiarity. I know it's on the other side. I know the parallels. All of this stuff makes sense. But you do get worried the more Vader gets used, as if you're like, okay, are we at this point where it's like, okay, cool. The Terminators aren't Terminators anymore. We've seen 20 versions of them. They're not that scary. We know they're going to get defeated. So like you do kind of want to keep that sanctity of Darth Vader. And he's also, my favorite character. But I think this was done really well in establishing, I think we knew this fight was going to be there. I think that was the first thing that everybody thought, are we going to see Vader and Maul go at it? The fact that we got it in season 1 in this way, rather than them leaving us on a cliffhanger of where Vader watches Maul go fly away, which is what they very well could have done.
Yeah.
Was really, really awesome.
Yeah. I was having the same thoughts, Nick, where I was like, oh my God, he's here. Oh my God, it's happening. The Office gif. And then Mike, same thing. I was like afraid the whole time. I was like, oh, is this too much? Are they doing it too much? Is he going to talk? He shouldn't talk. And then he didn't, So I'm sure Filoni and everyone on the team were having the same fears and concerns. They understand the responsibility to not overuse him and not turn him into Jason or the Terminator. And I think they can do it well, because at this point, Maul knows that he's a Sith, and that is going to mess him up psychologically. And his presence can loom even if he doesn't come back until the end of next season. And I feel like going into season 2, Maul still has his mission to get revenge. He still has this obsession with Sidious, but I think he's going to be scared the whole time. We talked a little bit about how in the comics, at some point, he has this absolute terror for Vader. And how does he get there? I don't think it's just this fight, but I think this is the beginning of it.
To Ryan's point, Nick, did you happen to hear Ryan's rant about that he thought it was Palpatine that Marok was talking to?
A little bit.
You saw the clip, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So for people that are for some reason didn't hear it, is that he was like, what if Palpatine is sending the Inquisitors out on kind of like a secret mission to deal with Darth Maul, because Palpatine is essentially in cleanup mode right now, because there can never be more than 2. And right now there's 3. And so the idea that that Palpatine is a little scared of Vader, a little scared of Anakin, needs to manipulate him so that he's not a dog off a leash and he doesn't go turn around and bite him. Is he sending the Inquisitors as kind of part of this big complicated chess game? Vader, to me, is going to go, this was a formidable opponent and he had a red lightsaber and fights different than, he's not trained like a Jedi. Vader is going to go to Palpatine and go, you got to explain to me what's going on here. And I feel like that is the start.
I'd have to watch, we'd have to watch Phantom Menace again, but Anakin has seen Darth Maul before.
Anakin Doc.
Yeah.
Just that moment though, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So did you see? Because there was a little bit of a Qui-Gon, battle before they got back on the ship.
Obi-Wan would have talked to him about that. Yeah. He would know everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. But that to me is like, that's a really cool, and even if he does know about it, that to me is like the start of Vader and Palpatine's very contentious relationship, because it's not good by the time we see them. Vader knows that he's second in command, but his approach of how they do things is much different than how Palpatine wants the Empire to do things. And, what is thy bidding, thy master? He doesn't say it as terms of like, how can I help you? I'm ready to do this. He's very conflicted by the time we see him, even in Empire, because I'm sure at some point he's feeling all these feelings of the Force and ran into someone on his super gun that was like, God, this kid feels something's going on here. You know what I mean? So I think this season 2 could be real deep in lore.
I'm trying to figure out when exactly Tales of the Empire happens.
You're saying about for the rest of the Inquisitors and kind of...
Yeah, and Vader's relationship, because there's the moment when Barriss Offee, Marok, and the 11th brother, the Crow, are all in the Inquisitorius Palace Castle. What's it called? Castle Inquisitorius?
Fortress Inquisitorius. Yeah.
Fortress Inquisitorius in front of Vader. That's the beginning of Barriss's time as an Inquisitor, but the other 2 have been around. So if Ryan is right, and it could go either way. Vader could be in charge of the Inquisitors and know everything about them except for what Palpatine is pulling them aside to work on, kind of in the same way that the Council pulled Anakin aside and wanted him to spy on Palpatine.
I like it. And Vader's ultimate redemption is being like, I'm going to make decisions for myself.
Yeah.
Save my kid. Let's get into chapter 10. This old thing. We're going to go quick. Maul and the Jedi engage with Vader and the Inquisitors while Vario, Two Boots, and the Lawsons make their way to the rendezvous point, which is full of Imperial troops. At this point, the whole spot is blown up. During the fight, Master Daki pushes Marok off a bridge. Devin distracted, fighting with the 11th brother. Maul apparently leaves Daki to face Vader alone in a very Maul way. I mean, what do we think about this? This is a classic Maul moment of being like, we were cool, but dude, I gotta go.
Well, everyone serves a purpose. I feel like,
Are we talking about the moment right now where Maul pushes Daki towards, or that's later in the episode? That's towards the end, right?
No.
This isn't in the notes, but do you guys remember seeing this?
Yes, absolutely.
And I watched it a few times just to try to, because it's not clear. He doesn't like push him into Vader's blade or something like that. He just pushes him kind of back into the fight, puts him a little off balance. Is he thinking, okay, Daki's going to bolt? And he's like, no, you're going to fight.
I mean, they have the two different philosophies. Daki's like, we need to retreat. Maul's like, we can fight him if we take him on two at a time.
Yeah. But then he pushes Daki and bails.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I mean, is it not? I mean, I might be misinterpreting, but is it not because he wants Daki to die and Devin to see it?
That's very, very valid. Like, he wants her to suffer that loss, so she feels a need.
Because that happens eventually, so I wonder if that's like the first attempt, kind of. That doesn't.
Yeah, like we're not escaping. You're gonna fight this dude and hopefully go down.
Yeah.
So Devin sees her master get killed by Vader, and she's overcome with rage. This is the moment we've been teased, we've been crumb-trailed, like everything is here at this point. Maul helps her escape from the Inquisitor, and Vader is again kind of stopped by Maul bringing down a collapsing structure. At this point, we've seen this a few times. It seems to be the only thing that really stops Vader is if you put a large amount of rocks in front of him. Promises to train her so that they can get their revenge. Lawson seemingly sacrifices himself to allow Riley, Two Boots, and Vario to reach Voss's ship.
Brutal.
Where they are joined by Maul and Devin. As the ship leaves Janix in hyperspace, Voss tasks Maul to hold up his end of the bargain by killing Rentero, boss of Crimson Dawn. And while clutching Maul's lightsaber, Devin agrees to become Maul's apprentice by saying, all right, I'm ready. End scene.
Did anyone else just have, once again, a surreal, wow, look at this group of people together kind of moment at the end where goddamn Dryden Voss is in the passenger seat, Maul's standing there, Vario's there, these like three crime lords, and this, now cop on the run and his kid, and this like Jedi who just basically agreed to turn to the dark side, they're just hanging in the back. Like, what a group of people to be together. It's so wild if you go back a few years and think about what we knew about any of these characters and like, hey, at some point they're all just going to be riding a starship together.
Isn't that rebellion?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the hilarious part is like, I'm very excited for Two Boots' dialogue on this ship at this time when he realizes like, I'm going to arrest you.
Yeah.
And Dryden's like, I'll drop you back off. And then,
you sure about that?
Yeah. Right. But there's a part of me that goes like, the part that Riley is now conflicted with is that Riley not only is escaping the Empire, but his mom essentially got, she's supporting this fascist regime that got his dad killed. Conflict in full effect.
There's so many ways that could go. I mean, if Lawson isn't dead and he's just in custody, that goes crazy. If Riley ends up, rendezvousing with his mom at some point, her duty to the Empire is to turn him in. There are no happy endings at any of these roads that we could go down right now for any of these characters.
Riley is on a place called Ferrix, falls in love with a girl. She ends up being in love with someone else. He's like, I'm calling the Empire. Tim was a front. It's actually Riley.
So we have a Den of Antiquities thing that doesn't really need the intro music because it's just one thing. We're talking about Boss Rentero. Let's do this, and if there's anything, we can look at bingo results, and then we can talk about anything else we want to hear, or maybe just wrap it up. But Boss Rentero, I didn't know this name per se, but it's the first time this character was mentioned by name. Dryden Voss's predecessor as leader of the Crimson Dawn was first referenced, but unidentified, in the 2023 novel Crimson Climb by E.K. Johnston. So, nameless leader of Crimson Dawn, right? I guess is how he was described. So now we have that name. Devin turning to the dark side. Let's talk about this in the bonus segment, like just how this is going to go down. Kind of just, we'll have a little appetizer for next week's wrap up where we really get into speculating, a thing that we, of course, don't do based on policy. We'll talk about bingo results right now. I can actually put this up on screen. We got 3 hits. It wasn't worth doing every week because we didn't have enough, but we got more than I expected.
Thing the Maker is yet to actually win a bingo.
You are correct, sir.
Oh my gosh. I think we have to be more strategic about where we place.
We should do what every grown adult does and just make the game easier. And so we could say we won. We got to rate. We got to be like, yeah, we actually only wanted 3, so we won.
Yeah. These are the 3 that were important to us.
Yeah.
Man, these were good guesses though. I probably could have, I would have said no Ahsoka, but these were good guesses. Maul gets his lightsaber from Rebels. I mean, we're close. Morgan Elsbeth, great call.
That bottom middle, that's got to be coming up.
Kira, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Kira's going to happen. Ahsoka Tano, I was just hoping for a mention.
Sure.
I didn't really, I didn't expect we were going to see her or anything, or even see like a Fulcrum logo or anything. I figured a mention. Dathomir, I'm a little surprised we didn't even get a mention. Maul gets his lightsaber from Rebels. This, now knowing that they have season 2 coming, almost definitely season 3, this was too early for us to predict this.
Sure. Interesting.
But we get Devin Azara turns to the dark side, Darth Vader confrontation, and Dryden Voss.
Okay, so now we'll leave this and just change it to season 2 bingo and leave everything exactly the same.
Yeah, we'll just scratch out the season thing altogether, or we start to play bingo where they're just all in a single line. And if we get 3 connected, period, we'll just make a new game. Actually, hold on. We have a patron bingo card as well, or at least Mihan Solo's version. Mandalorians betray Maul. He got that one. Maul has a trial World Between Worlds style. We'll call the Sandblast moment that's a hit, and a Savage reference. Well done.
Mihan got bingo with that?
No, he got 3 that didn't.
Okay.
Cross or didn't line up like ours.
But did get hits.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, there's that Crimson Climb cover, the Physics Buddy Joe thinks. That's a great cover. It's Kira, the Crimson Dawn logo behind her. It's really, really nice. Oh, I'm also reading the Maul Shadow Lord comic series. It's a prequel to this. I think there's still one more issue to come. I've read the first 2. The third one, I think, just dropped recently. Not a lot to report yet, but it's really, really good. And now I want to go back and just catch up on a lot of Maul stuff. I've watched most of the other animation stuff that he's in. I'm trying to go chronologically. I feel like between now and next week is a good time to watch a bunch of stuff so we can make more accurate predictions and not have to spend any time Googling while we're recording.
Sure. Try to avoid that.
Patrons, like we said, we're going to talk a little bit about how things might go with her when she says, okay, I'm ready. Just how deep does this dark rabbit hole go for her? Like I said, we're going to have a season wrap up next week and then a lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu the week after next. And then I'll be in Michigan with Mike.
That's
great.
We'll
be watching that stuff.
We're watching it twice. We're seeing it twice.
I am seeing the movie on the 17th, thankfully. Cast and crew, thankful for Desi who worked on the movie to get that invite. But I'm in the UK for opening weekend. So I think I'm actually going to go with Phil from HE Creative on one of the...
Nice.
We kind of have a little plan to go. So that'll be my second viewing then.
That's great.
But yeah, then I'll be back. Hopefully I think I have a couple of days off. So I'll be in either New York or Philly, depending on when we want to record for that first... Right before I go on the Taking Back Sunday tour. I should have a couple of days to record, hopefully a Mando episode with you guys.
Nice. I imagine we're going to do at least an immediate reaction reel in the car driving away. Holy shit kind of thing. Right. We should each probably just drop one of those. And then, like Nick said, we'll do a full breakdown. And I got that AMC movie pass, so I'm going to just be in there taking notes. Like, I'll probably see 3 in a row in the day,
Yeah, I love that. Nick, you want to give a shout out to our next endeavor here with Mosh Isley taking over the LA Galaxy for their Star Wars night.
Yeah, so you may remember the three of us did Mosh Isley at the LA Galaxy Star Wars night, 3 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
So they've actually asked us every year since then, and we couldn't make it work last year, but this year, Sarah and Dano are making it work with our friend Dimitri, who's going to help. And there is, it's way more involved than it was the first year when the three of us did it. So it'll be on May 23rd, the LA Galaxy game. And it's a pregame, a halftime show, and then something a little similar to what the three of us did, then like a post-game extra time performance is what they call it, which is up in their lounge. So it's a whole night of Star Wars. Mosh Isley's involved the whole time. We have Dimitri helping out during halftime. So it's cool. They're definitely trying to make, for a couple of years in a row now, their Star Wars night a little bit more elevated, and it's great that they include us.
Yep. So make sure you head over to our links so that you can get a ticket through us, which is helpful. And of course, we have, this is really fun because we got a shout out, which we always love shouting out the patrons. A big shout out this week to Amaranth and Natasha, who this was a cool little story that got shared. She was at a thrift store and found a Black Spire Outpost shirt I think she's in Kansas City.
Nice.
Kansas City or Wisconsin, somewhere in the Midwest, somewhere definitely not where Batu is. And sent it out to another patron of ours, Krista, and said, would your kid want to wear this? Yes, of course. And it ended up including a goodie bag with a bunch of Mosh Isley stuff, like the Mosh bag, the sticker, the C2E2 Mosh poster, which is a favorite of mine. And she knew that Krista was dying to go and made her feel like, hey, don't worry, if you weren't able to go, we still want you to be involved. And that's kind of what our Patreon community is like. So shout out to both of them. Beautiful. Adamant supporters of the pod, and it is a great time. I think we're all feeling the love of Star Wars being fully back. So again, a huge thank you to our patrons for making all of this work, because without them, we're just three dudes trying to coordinate how to talk about our thing that we love the most, which is Star Wars.
One of my favorite quotes: "Without you, we'd just be us."
Ain't that the truth?
That's poetry.
Also, don't forget, reminder, celebration tickets, right? May 6th. So right now, I guess.
Yeah. Tomorrow at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
So getting ready to drop a bunch of money.
It's a terrible time between May the 4th. I bought a bunch of art because that's what I do. I also bought one of the Boosh helmets from Shop Disney.
Nice.
Because I want to repaint it for Space Dive. Space Dive is coming this weekend. Jason's actually flying into Detroit for the first time, which I get to show him around, but that is this weekend. Celebration tickets go on sale tomorrow. So for this 2 weeks, I don't have enough freelance to support this very, very, very bad habit of mine, which is loving Star Wars so much that I want to take it with me everywhere I go. So
May is just too much across the board. Everything, too many things happen in May.
Yeah.
It's wild. All right, patrons, again, we'll see you in a few minutes. Everyone else, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next week, may the Force be with you. Thank the Maker is produced by Adam Russell and Jason Chiodo and edited by Jason Chiodo. If you enjoy the podcast, you can support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, and more. Our patrons literally make Thank the Maker possible.